FA Cup ticket prices, and the signing session at the club. All that in the company of, first of all, welcome back, Emily Anderson. How are you?
Yes, good. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me back.
Good to have you back with us. Michael Temple and Tuba Pringles, how are you?
Yeah, good. It was nice to hear Emily banging on about Felipe in the preamble as well. So yeah, good to be back.
Felipe will come up, don't worry. And I say a tube of Pringles. Temps didn't tap in the open goal there, so he is just wading through a tube of Pringles rather than raspberries and healthy food for once. Yes, yeah, he's as fallible as the rest of us. Don't worry. And joining us as well today is Mark Sutherns. Mark, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, a little bit warm after all the Felipe chat. I need to cool down after that.
We'll come to Felipe later. Don't worry. Just before we started, it was not announced, but it's been reported that Crystal Palace have sacked Roy Hodgson after earlier the club saying he'd been taken ill and couldn't do his press today. So any messy business. But Oliver Glasner's coming in. We won't discuss it much, but we'll just have one word on it. Mark, do you want to say, just because we'll talk about just because Cooper was so closely linked to it, what do you make of it in terms of the relegation battle that Hodgson's gone?
I think it's difficult because, Hodgson's results have been poor, but a lot of that has coincided with the injuries that they've had, obviously. It's kind of like the reverse of last season, isn't it? Hodgson came in for Vieira when they had good fixtures and Hodgson navigated them out of choppy waters then. And now, the tide has turned against Hodgson this time in terms of injuries. And I guess you can look at the Elise incident recently where obviously he brought him on for the second half, 3-0 down at Brighton, and then he went off after 11 minutes, and whether that was on Hodgson, was it on the medical staff, that one hasn't really been untangled. I guess that he didn't come out of that very well, and having lost Eze already, they've now lost their 2-star men. I watched them the other night, and they were very, very ordinary, and they're very much in the mire, I think. So I'm not surprised Palace have done it, because they probably looked at the situation and gone, we need to make a change to cement our status as a Premier League club, and we've seen in previous seasons they've been comfortably mid-table. They're not at the moment, and the trend and trajectory was they were going to get dragged into the relegation fight. Will the manager change help? Maybe the manager bounce will kick in, and that will get them the results they need to get clear. But obviously, as a Forest fan, I hope not. I hope they're going to be very much part of the relegation picture on the run-in.
Yeah, definitely. And we've still got our own opportunity to turn it around, starting with West Ham on Saturday, Emily. We'll get into, is it a must-win, all the team selection stuff. But in general, how are you feeling about the game?
I'm feeling probably like everyone else, that it feels like we do need to win this game. We desperately need to sort out our set-piece defending. We've spoken about that time and time again, haven't we? And with a team like West Ham, who've probably got the best set-piece specialist in the Premier League in James Ward-Prowse, we really need to be careful. When we played them at their place, it was another game that we should have won. And because of terrible set-piece defending, we lost the game 3-2. 11 times we've lost 3-2, I think, isn't it? I mean, they're terrible, aren't they, at the moment? West Ham are having a horrendous run of form. They had the embarrassing 6-0 defeat at the weekend. David Moyes is under a huge amount of pressure, talk of him possibly being sacked. So it seems like the perfect time to play them. But I can't remember which one of you guys mentioned it on the podcast chat. They seem to have a terrible result and then pick up a couple of wins. And wouldn't it be just our luck that they find form against us? But having said that, Bowen's had a really dry spell, hasn't he? Antonio's got a long-term injury. So I feel like we should go into the game as favourites, because actually, yes, we've had a bit of a rubbish run of form, but all our losses have been very narrow defeats, and they're because of our sloppy mistakes. Whereas they just seem in all sorts of trouble at the moment.
How are you viewing West Ham, Temps? Because like Emily said, they do lose games heavily occasionally and they bounce back. And we had it at Fulham and we went to Wolves and dug out an ugly point. And also, Sheffield United got hammered by Villa and went to Luton and won. So it doesn't feel like quite the slam dunk it might be to me. But how are you feeling about it in the sense of how West Ham will show up?
Winnable game. I think we have to go in with confidence and maintain that attack-minded balance at this point. I spoke on a previous episode about having that decision to make around being more defensively solid or picking teams that excite and can attack. And I think that was one of the themes of his press conference today. He was full of praise for the manner in which we go forward, the quality of the chances that we create. And he said his fix needs to be in the other box, the defensive box, where he wants to see more aggression and less individual mistakes. So I'm taking from that he doesn't want to necessarily replace the attacking endeavour. He thinks the improvement can come from within by discussing the mindset with that back four in particular, making sure they deny space, have the right cover in terms of attacking the ball and preventing the running behind or tracking the running behind, which West Ham like to play a lot. But we're gonna be susceptible to set pieces. You can say it as many times as you like until we see action and a step change in the manner in which we attack the ball. I've lauded James Ward-Prowse before, haven't I? But he doesn't deliver bad balls. Extremely consistent at a skill that is hard to be consistent with. We have to be mindful of that. There will be a reaction from West Ham. We're slight bookies' favourites for a reason, and I know we're going to score. So we need to sort that defensive performance out, and there's 3 points there for the taking.
As David says in the comments, I think Antonio might be back in the shake-up for it. He's been tweeting about it, which players don't tend to do unless they're going to be involved in games. So that adds another dimension to it. What about how we go about it, Mark? Like Temp says, we are weak at the back. Is it the case of hide our weaknesses and go all out at them and try and get the first goal and see how the West Ham fans react to that, even if it is an away game?
Yeah, we go front foot, we attack them. For Black Box, I always look at like last 6 matches data for teams, and right now, West Ham are the second worst for XG conceded over the last 6 matches, 1.94, and they're second worst for XG gained. So they've got the second worst attack and the second worst defence over the last 6 matches. So that really summarises just how out of form they are in both ends of the pitch. We've got to expose that. I think we can go at them. Obviously, they've got players that are dangerous in Kudos and Bowen, but they're not in form. And without Paqueta there, their creative force isn't in the side, and they've really missed him. And this is the right time to play them. Antonio might be back, but I don't know if he'll start. He's a player that needs matches, I think. I always felt that because of his frame. He's not going to go straight in and play 90 minutes. So if we do see him, it'll probably be off the bench. So I don't think he's going to be a major factor. And I think Murillo should be able to handle Bowen. I'm worried about Kudos, and it's whether we play Toffolo or Tavares at left back. But I think we go at them. I think they're vulnerable. And if we get an early goal and the atmosphere is good, I think we can win this comfortably. But it's about that first goal. And our stance, I think Nuno will attack them. You'll see it's not a must win, but it's a can win, like Temp says. And therefore, we need to expose that. Just a word of warning, though. I remember I was on after the West Ham game and I talked about how much freedom we gave Ward-Prowse. The match in which he's crossed the ball most was against us this season. 13 crosses he put in, and no team conceded more corners to West Ham so far this season than us in that game. 9 corners we conceded to Ward-Prowse. We've got to not do that. We've got to not concede crosses and not concede corners. And how we play and how we set up has got to be to watch that ball down the channel, give away easy corners like we did seen in previous games. We've got to not do that. We've got to be wary of that and throw into fine, but giving Ward-Prowse a dead ball, as we did in the match at the Olympic Stadium, we've got to avoid doing that because that's our weakness and we exposed ourselves to it once. We can't do it again.
We do have our own big team news coming into the game. We kind of hoped and thought the AFCON lads would be at least available, but Nuno said today that Aina, Sangare and Willy Boly won't feature at all. They don't even get back into the meet the squad till today or tomorrow, I think. So they won't be in the team or in the squad. Was that pretty gutting, Emily, or not?
Initially, but in hindsight, it makes sense, doesn't it? They've only just come, literally just come back from a tournament that they've been away for the best part of a month. So actually, it's no surprises really. I was really hoping Boly would be back to maybe sort out our heading in defence, because I think that sort of player is really crucial against West Ham. But it is what it is. We've got who we've got. We've still got Niakate who can take his place, and in Aina's position, we've got fullbacks, and Yatesy will work in midfield. So I think we've just got to go with what we've got on Saturday. And I'm not convinced that maybe we'd want to bring them straight back in anyway after such a long tournament that they've been through. So it is what it is, isn't it? There's not a lot we can do about it.
What about you, Temps, in terms of, would it have been a huge boost to have them back, or would it have been too much to expect of them to just step up straight away and deliver?
It's not ideal, but it's necessary because we've been without them for so long. So they're going to be in our most effective team, Aina and Sangare, certainly. I really want to see an uplift from Sangare. I think he owes that to us, having not quite hit his straps in the games that he's had so far. And in the absence of Mangala, it becomes increasingly important to us. We know the limitations of Yatesy. We know the strengths of Yatesy. I've got confidence in his ability to influence a game of football, but he hasn't got the range and quite the technical ability of Ibrahim Sangare. So I want him back in there. I think Aina is arguably our best fullback, both in terms of, well, that balance between being a great one-on-one defender, a solid defender, a la Toffolo, and also having that ability going forward in a running sense, a la Nuno, with a little bit more quality, as we saw that finish against Villa. So I might be being a bit harsh on Nuno there, but he would have been dropped for me if Aina was available. I would have chucked Sangare in for Yates. I think ultimately that's where we want to get to. And Boly has to scrap, as Emily said, and make his presence worth a pick off the back of being a true defender, like a Wes Morgan, Robert Huth type character from the Leicester glory days, where there's no frills, but he wins his headers and tackles and does what he needs to do. So Boly's got a bit of a scrap, but I think we'll see Sangare and Aina soon.
And we'll get to our lineup shortly. Just last one before we get to that. You mentioned earlier, Mark, you don't think it's must win. Just elaborate on that, and feel free to come in on the AFCON lads as well. But why don't you feel it's must win?
Because there's still games to go. We've still got winnable matches in front of us. But I think I remember last season West Ham had a bad run, and Bournemouth got to play them, and some of our other relegation rivals got to play them at a time when they looked vulnerable, and they all got results against them. So it's a similar situation now. It's like our relegation rivals will look at this and go, "Oh, Forest have got West Ham," just when they're looking like they're beatable, rather than when they're on one of their runs, because they are a very streaky side. And so I think that I look at it and think we should win it. I think we're going to be the better side, and I think we're going to create more than them. And it's just really down to those set pieces. We've been pretty good defensively from open play. It's just whenever we concede a dead ball, we look really vulnerable. And of course, they have, like we've said, the best exponent of that in Ward-Prowse. So if we keep him quiet, and from open play, that's okay, but it's just from dead balls, then we should win the game. It's not a must win because there's winnable games ahead, but I'd be very disappointed if we don't get 3 points.
Let's get to our lineups in one sec then, but before we do that, a quick plug for our sponsor, the Trent Navigation. Do make sure you pop down to the nav on Saturday ahead of Forest v West Ham. Opens at 10 for breakfast, Cascales, barbecue food court on sale. There's now an extra outside bar, so that's 2 inside, 2 outside. You can watch Brentford v Liverpool from 12:30 and Man City versus Chelsea from 5:30 on the 15 square metre big screen. And as ever, here's a short video so you can see what the match day experience is like, and we'll see you on the other side. Right, lineup.
Stop me reaching for the Pringles there in that 15 seconds. Become like, now I know it's happening, I'm going to use these commercial breaks to my advantage to get a bit of sustenance into me.
Every time I watch it, I always want to pie immediately. That's the trouble as well.
Let's get into our lineups then. I've got 3 here because Emily and Temps's are actually the same. And we'll start with Mark's because it's quite straightforward. It's basically unchanged from Newcastle. So I'll read it out for those who are listening and then throw it to Mark. So it's Sells in goal, Williams, Niakate, Murillo and Tavares at the back. Yates and Dominguez in midfield, Elanga and Hudson-Odoi wide, with Gibbs White in support of Awoniyi. Obviously, it's all influenced by AFCON players, Mark, but were you tempted to make any further changes?
Well, it's the Tavares-Toffolo decision, isn't it? I just think that Nuno favours Tavares, and up against the pace and power of Kudus, I think he might well go with him again. I don't think he's as good a defender as Toffolo, but Nuno favours him. So this is the side I think will be put out. Would I rather have Toffolo against Kudus? Probably. But we're front foot, right? If we're going to attack the game, I think Tavares gives us that little bit more going forward. One change that he might consider, and maybe it's too early. Let's see what people think. Gibbs White instead of Yates, and you play Gio Reyna in the 10. I wonder how far away we are from that, because when we brought Gio Reyna in, we presume he's going to get in the side. I think Hudson-Odoi has stepped up since Reyna's come in. Maybe it's a coincidence, but he does look like he's got an extra yard in him, a little bit more of a burst and a hunger for the game. So I don't think Callum is someone we want to drop. So if Reyna's going to get in the side, the only switch that I can see would be to put Gibbs White deeper and put Reyna in the 10. We saw it the other night. Gibbs White can play there, and Nuno has played him there. And this is a game we want to attack. I do wonder whether he'll go, I'll tell you what, let's play Gibbs White alongside Dominguez, because we don't need two defensive midfielders. And let's give Gio a home debut, a full debut. That might happen, but we'll see. It's going to happen at some point, I would have thought.
Well, hold that thought till you come to my team. We'll just go to Emily and Temps's then, because my team is slightly different. So Emily and Temps, I'll read that one out as well. It's pretty similar. Sells in goal, Williams, Niakate, Murillo, Toffolo at left back, and then Yates, Dominguez, Elanga, Gibbs White, Hudson-Odoi in support of Awoniyi. I joked to you, Emily, when you submitted your team, you're going to keep putting Toffolo in until he actually gets a game. And here we are again.
Yeah, and Mark was just alluding to the fact that our Nuno loves Nuno Tavares, which means he probably will start. But I am a fully paid up fan of Harry Toffolo, because I think he's a great defender and a great cross of the ball, and he's a real workhorse, and he always gives us a solid 7 out of 10. So I would always pick him as left back, but I know that he's, for whatever reason, he's not first choice. And actually, I can see the logic in going for Tavares in this game with the pace and the attacking threat that he's got. And I'm also really excited, Mark, about the fact that maybe Reyna might start in that more attacking position. Not even thought of that, but I mean, you know, that could be a devastating attack, couldn't it, if we get that right?
I suppose, Temps, it feels like there's always an attention on Ryan Yates, but there's an onus on Yates and Dominguez, who, let's assume they are the midfield pairing, there's an onus on them to deliver in this game, because they were, well, Yates was a bit of a mixed bag at the weekend, wasn't he?
Well, first of all, I think great minds think alike. So me and Emily have picked the best possible side there. I think that Toffolo's ability with his left peg is outstanding. And on Nuno, for all of those lung-busting runs and that top-end pace, which is explosive, what's the point if you put it in the river when you get to the end of it? The credit I'll give him is that the ball he pulled back for Gibbs White was off the back of an excellent progressive run, and he didn't hit the target. I remember when Aina did that. No, sorry, who was it? It was Toff, wasn't it? Who pulled it back for Aina to score against Villa, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, that is a debate. On the Gio Reyna, Morgan Gibbs White and the 10 thing, my concern there is the change of gear at 70 minutes if we need it, because Taiwo is going to be surrendered at some point, and if that is Origi coming on, that's a negative step in terms of quality and the threat that he poses to centre half. So I just wonder, while we're in this situation without Chris Wood, if Reyna is held back as that finisher, that change up on 70 minutes to give us a different gear. But it would be even more creative, attacking, flairful if we were to accommodate Reyna and Gibbs White in the same side from the start. I'd worry about how we handle the last 20 minutes if we were chasing it. In terms of the Dominguez and Yates axis, both industrious players. Dominguez far more structured in a sense, knows when to press, knows how to do it. I think Yatesy will take his cue from him, and he does get about the pitch, doesn't he? And tots up a fair few whacks. I counted probably 4 yellow cards I think he could have had in the previous fixture, but seems to get away with it with a wink and a smile. There's limitations to that pairing in the sense that their craft is first and foremost defensive. The range of passing isn't particularly expressive. Good, solid, tidy players, but I think Yates out of there for Sangare, as I called it, or Gio Reyna and Gibbs White dropping in, gives us far more in possession. So they're all the kind of permutations and parameters that are going off in my mind. But I don't think there's a bad combination in the 11 players that we've mentioned, plus Reyna and Toff.
I know, Mark, your lack of a plan B is a real bugbear of ours. Are you feeling like we have to be winning this game after 70 minutes then? Because we are going to take Tyrell off a round then, I think.
Yeah. I guess the difference is there's two options. Do we go for the game, go 2-0 up and then bring Yates on? Or are we struggling and chasing a game and have to bring Gio on? That's the difference, right? So what does Nuno think? If he's going front foot and if he's confident, and I don't see why he shouldn't be, he could start with Gio Reyna and go, well, after 70 minutes, it won't be we're chasing the game. It'll be we're seeing the last 20 out. So it really depends what Nuno's approach is. I don't think he'll play Gibbs White and Reyna, but I think it's an option that I imagine he's thinking about, because there are games at home where we've got to be front foot and got to set our stall out, and there won't be much we can do pre-match that would be more effective at doing that than going, we're going to play Gibbs White and Reyna. So pick the bones out of that, Moyes, see what you think of that, because Moyes won't be expecting that. And it will certainly give a message to the fans that we're going after 3 points from the first whistle. So I'd be tempted if I was him to do that, but I'll be interested to see what option he takes.
All right, let's put my team up then. And it's not massively a hill I'm prepared to die on, but it is basically what Mark suggests. So Sells in goal, a back four, Nico Williams, Felipe, Murillo. And Felipe looks absolutely tremendous in that photo already. Murillo left so.
Fresh from his backwash.
By Thames, yeah. Nuno Tavares left back, Gibbs White and Dominguez as a midfield two, Ilanga, Reyna as a 10, Hudson Odoi and a Wonyi. So I'll just talk through a couple of bits quickly. I mean, I'm not. He obviously backs Nuno Tavares, so he's not going to drop him now. So I'm sure Nuno Tavares is going to start left back, and we did see the best and the worst of him in the last game. And if we can just see that moment of magic that results in a goal, then it will sort of all be worth it. Felipe, I just think we need someone in there, some leadership now, and like Kelvin was saying on Monday, just some no-nonsense centre-half play might work. It would have been Willy Boly if he'd been available. But I'm not massively fussed about who the other centre-half is, because they've all got qualities. But I think we need someone to just grab a set-piece marking unit by the scruff of the neck and just take responsibility. So Felipe. And then I do like Gibbs White in midfield. The worry is that we're just taking out quite a combative player in Yates for defending set pieces, but then Yates was involved in a goal conceded from a set piece last week. So trying to be positive and trying to get at them and give Gio Reyna that opportunity, because he won't have come here to sit on the bench every match. At some point he's going to start. And like Mark says, a home game, a winnable home game, can we be really positive and be really attacking? And, let's take the game to them and see what happens. Has anyone got any additional thoughts on that before we move on?
Just the comment in the recent list there. Defensively, you could look at that and think a bit weak. Need some bite in there. Need a second enforcer, particularly if we want two out and out wingers with limited defensive responsibility. They're going to have some workhorses in behind them. So that's what you lose. But that is the team. If, as Mark says, we're backing ourselves to be 2-0 up after 70.
Yeah, true. And Felipe is not infallible. I mean, he's made mistakes for goals as well. And I suppose, Emily, West Ham have got Souček. Ward-Prowse runs around a lot. They are a combative team as well. So would you still rather Yates was in there?
Yeah, I think so. And to be fair, actually, when I thought we might have Sangare, I'd initially dropped Yates to the bench. But actually, listening to what you guys are saying, I guess we need that combative force to break up the play when there's a few fouls. Get in people's ears a little bit. That would be good, wouldn't it? My only concern with the teams is, why has Murillo not got a picture?
I don't know. No, it's not me who's done it, but no.
Oh, right. Yeah,
you got an assistant now, Matt. You got some graphics department.
Just lifting from dodgy websites.
I just wanted to see his pretty little face. That's all. But
yeah, he's going to start enough to deserve a picture, Matt, I think. So.
That's what I thought. It's cruel.
Are we getting a bit ahead of ourselves, Temps? Do you think a few people are saying, basically along the lines of, we've only won about 6 games all season, maybe just being hard to beat and not worrying about Gio Reyna playing 10 and just being as scrappy and as ugly as we can be? It kind of might be the way to go.
Well, you don't have to listen to me spieling on. Look at Mark's spreadsheet. West Ham are not in form in an XG sense, and whilst I don't understand it, I respect it and the hours that go into it. So Forest's form on the flip side of that, is more positive than the results are showing at this moment in time. It shows that we are creating chances, we are getting into good positions, we are preventing expected goals. That's knowledge of performance, but the knowledge of results is that we're not picking up the points that we deserve and expect. So we need to overcome that. But I'm optimistic because of what I've seen with my eyes. I think the Forest problems can be fixed through organisation, tactics and discipline rather than any need for drastic changes of personnel. And I see a West Ham side that are under pressure, who have far higher expectations this season than we do. So no, I don't think I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll see if there's egg on my face on Saturday night, but we are more than capable of beating West Ham at home.
What do Forest numbers show, Mark, if you've got them to hand for the last 6, roughly?
Yeah, so for attack, I think last 6 we're ranked 15th, so not particularly high, but certainly higher than West Ham. 1.31 XG non-penalty per 90, so we're averaging over 1 per game, which West Ham aren't. They're under that. And then defensively, last 6, this is surprising, we're actually the 3rd best defence, 1.09, behind City and Arsenal, which really shocked me, whereas West Ham are right down the bottom, 19th, 1.94. So defensively, if we didn't make errors leading to goals and we didn't concede set pieces and we're so weak there, then we would be all right, I think. I mean, what it shows is we've had some good goals scored against us. Let's look at it. The 2 Bruno Gomes goals, the Mope goal, the Tony free kick. These are all low XG efforts that on another day would just flash past the post and or go over the bar. So I think we have been unfortunate in that we've been the victim of some world-class finishes by some very, very good players. Maybe not Mope, but so I think we can be hard to beat if we stop making errors that lead to goals, and we're the 2nd worst for that now, behind Sheffield United and Brighton. I think it's 6 errors we've made that led to goals. If we stop doing that, and if we get a little bit tight on set pieces, we won't be easy to beat. And we know we've got some goal threat going forward with the players that we've got. So I don't think it's hard to put right. We said weeks ago we have to get a new goalkeeper and we have to get better at set pieces. We've done one of those elements. The second one is still a work in progress, and we've got to get it soon.
2 massively loaded ifs from Mark Ware. If we don't make mistakes, if we don't concede from set pieces, get this man in the dressing room, get that message delivered.
Just looking around the league quickly at the weekend as well, some interesting couple of games. We mentioned Palace already. They go to Everton, which has implications on the bottom of the table, obviously. Luton have got 2 games this week, Liverpool and Man United. Does it change anything for you, Emily? Are you looking at other teams yet, or is it just solely looking at what we're doing?
I try really hard not to, because I don't think it does us any favours, and we can't control other results, but you can't help, can you, but have a quick sneaky peek at what the other teams are doing. I think Luton are at Kenilworth Road for the Man United game, aren't they? So that's definitely winnable for them. Not so sure about how they're going to get on at Anfield. But yeah, I mean, we've got to sort ourselves out, I think, and not worry about the other teams. And I couldn't really call the Crystal Palace Everton game because both are in similar-ish situations. Like Everton are having a bit of a rough spell, aren't they? Yeah, I just think we need to just sort ourselves out before we start worrying about others. And you were talking about the XG, which again, I don't understand, but I find really interesting. But do you remember before Cooper was sacked, people were saying we were too defensive, we're too boring, we're not scoring goals. And they were crying out for this free-flowing attacking football, which is exactly what we're doing now. So we are scoring goals. We just can't, unfortunately, the defensive side of things isn't working. So I think people say, oh, are we sort of maybe being too optimistic or thinking we're better than we are? No, I don't think we do. I think we are playing that free-flowing football that Nuno wants us to play. We've just got to sort out that defence, which is really frustrating because we've got potentially world-class defenders in Murillo, and yet we're still leaking goals.
The other fixtures at the bottom of the league this weekend are Burnley at home to Arsenal, Sheffield United at home to Brighton. So it's another one of those weekends, probably as every weekend is, where you'd expect quite a few of those teams to lose. It's whether we can take any kind of advantage. So we'll see on that front. Any final thoughts on the game before we move on, Mark?
None other than if we see James Ward-Prowse not take a corner and hang around outside the box, can we just pick that up rather than leave it and miss it completely? That's all I ask.
Yeah.
Where Go on, Emily. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say I actually sat very close to one of the corner flags on Saturday.
Shout,
Mark.
just shout. Emily.
I will be your woman on the side of the pitch, shouting to them.
Get in his head. Yeah, tell him he's not good enough for England or something like that. Gareth thinks you're crap. Temps, anything from you?
Well, form of the wingers is important to me. So, like watching back on some of those Elanga runs, the pace is electric, and if there's a channel which he can exploit, we need to do it again and again and again. You don't need to disguise or be clever about a pace advantage. If it's there, exploit it. Scored the goal with an inside run on Dan Burn, who's running through treacle Tona Caravan, and there'll be West Ham defenders who cannot keep pace with Anthony Elanga. So let's use that. Hudson-Odoi is a bit different, more about the poise, stopping and starting his man. We've seen loves to come inside and have a shot, and he's got that finesse finish with the inside of his right foot. So I think the form of those two could be crucial. I'd like to see them continue to chip in with goals, given that Taiwo is getting sharper, but doesn't appear to be getting too much fitter in the sense that he could ever finish a game. So all eyes on those two. I think they've become as important as Morgan Gibbs-White.
Yeah, I think you're right, Temps. Let's get Soufal booked in the first 5 minutes and then see how he does from there. Because Elanga gave him a tough time. I think it was Soufal who was up against at the Olympic Stadium. Elanga got some joy early on, I remember. I do fancy both of them. Yeah, and I don't think Soufal and Emerson are the best defenders. So I think, and both our wingers are on form and get it. The fitness is back in both of them, I think, unlike Taiwo. So I do think that's where we can cause them a lot of problems.
Yeah, because their other fullback, I mean, they could play Cresswell, but he's a bit slow. And
even better, play Cresswell.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, Elanga, if he's back on the right, feels like, an interesting one. And their centre halves, like Zuma's good, but if he doesn't play, I've seen the Greek fella's played and he's got a rick in him. And they're not the best defensively. So there's a lot of optimism if we show up on the day, certainly. Right, a quick word for our other sponsors for this episode. Bear with me 1 second. They are, excuse me, Broodbacker, who are owned by Forest season ticket holder Danny Baker. They are a noise consultancy. So if you're a business with any HR issues around noise, maybe you're planning major events at a very big cricket ground while you're eating Pringles during this advert, and you just want to make sure you're on the right side of health and safety, then get in touch with Broodbacker. Like I say, owned by a Forest season ticket holder, so good to support them. Temps sneaking more Pringles.
Did he disrupt your read there, Matt? Did you? It was a perfect read disrupted by Pringles. Is that what it was?
They're always disrupted by something. Don't worry, they're never perfect.
Can Danny Baker give me some ear defenders so I don't need to listen to Matt taking the mick out of my little lunch break there? Is that in his product list?
I'm not taking the mick. I'm full of jealousy eating Pringles, especially that flavour. That's the best one.
It is.
The only one I eat, I think, the sour cream one. Right, moving on. Wanted to discuss a couple of the bits away from the pitch quickly. Firstly, the FA Cup ticket prices have gone down not very well, it's fair to say, for the Man United tie. £45 or £50 even if it goes on general sale for some tickets, and Man United fans can pay £25. I suppose that's the headline of it. There's some intricacies and details that I don't really understand around memberships and who's paid what. But in general, Temps, your day job is organising these big events at Trent Bridge, not necessarily setting ticket prices, but you know how it all works. What's your take on it? The club are getting buried. Can you offer an alternative case, or do you think they've got this one completely wrong?
I can qualify it from the chair of the person that's making those decisions, because I think in this case it's not an employed executive like me. It's an ownership decision. We're a subsidised football club that loses millions of pounds a year, is on the precipice of being pinged for FFP, and has to generate incremental income. Now that's not popular with fans who are the lifeblood of the club, but the receipts from their income alone isn't enough to sustain a club at this level. We effectively operate a business that loses millions of pounds a year. So the FA Cup tie comes along against Man United, and there's an excitement from those that know that you're going to sell out the City Ground almost regardless now of how you price those tickets. So that's the thought process that's going off. Fundamentally, you come down on the side of the fan, don't you? And I like the fact that Premier League football at Forest has been generally affordable compared to some quarters where it's become extortionate to go and watch your team play, particularly if you take in the kids or the grandparents or whatever else. But that's the reason why. On the away ticket price, so there's this global policy now in the Premier League, isn't there, about capping the price an away fan pays for a ticket of 30 quid. And this is reciprocal and is on the basis that Forest fans going to Man U pay 30 quid, Man U fans coming to Forest pay the same. I'm not sure if that rule applies for the FA Cup, but that principle applies across the Premier League. So it's advantageous to away fans. It doesn't necessarily sit well as an individual when you find yourself paying 45, 50 quid in the Brian Clough, and you see those fellas in the Lower Bridgeford and the girls in the Lower Bridgeford paying half of what you pay. But just remember that it's reciprocated when Forest go away. That happens. Man United had a campaign a little while ago, didn't they, about the fact that a lot of clubs were categorising their games as Platinum, Cad A, Category 1, whatever you want to call it. And their away fans on the road were being charged far more than when Burnley came to town. And they reacted to that by reciprocating. So if, I'm grabbing a fake example, if Sheffield United charged 60 quid for a Man U away ticket, they would then charge Sheffield United fans 60 quid when they went back to Old Trafford. So this Premier League regulation around that is designed to protect the away fan. It works both ways. It's never going to be popular with the home fan that doesn't travel. Forest have taken the attitude that they need to charge what the market can stand to fill out the City ground and maximise their receipts. It'll never be a popular decision, but I don't think there'll be an empty seat in the house when Man United come to town. Hence the abuse, the debate that circulates on Twitter. So hard for me to say that I agree or disagree with it, but they're the conversations that are happening behind the scenes.
I suppose that's the thing, Mark, isn't it? We know it's going to sell out because there's so much demand now. It won't be the regular fans necessarily. I suppose it's a kick in the teeth for season ticket holders. And I know you come to a lot of games, you travel a long way to go to as many games as you can. I guess if you're a family and you really want to go to an FA Cup tie and you paid £17 for Blackpool and Bristol City, you're probably thinking, hang on a minute, we've played Man U 6 times now in the last 2 seasons. Is that really fair to charge me 45 quid? Excuse me, I've got a terrible cough. It's a kick in the teeth for people, I suppose. You can see why people, the average fan's annoyed, I guess, can you?
Yeah, you can, and particularly if they followed the cup run to this point, like you say. And I think the membership thing was a bit odd. They're released all at once. It's first come, first serve. So people who, like me, have paid out for the Plus membership don't get any special treatment there. We can't be sure of getting a ticket. We're in the pool with people who haven't paid that membership. So yeah, it was a bit odd the way that was done as well. There was a lot of noise about that. I get it. I think it's the Man United price, which obviously is the biggest issue for me. I guess it's one of those things. It's a cup game. It's a big cup game. It's a home game, and we want a full house there. And ideally, we want vocal supporters who are all our games, and we want that hardcore in the ground. But also, cup games, as we've seen in earlier rounds, are an opportunity for other fans to get a chance to get a ticket and so on. So I can see the logic behind it in a way. For me, I'm just thinking, I want a result and a full house and a good atmosphere there.
True. The other thing I wanted to discuss briefly was the signing session at the ground, which is a really commendable thing that Forest did, getting loads of players down for 2 days to open up for members and mostly kids, I guess, to meet their heroes. And basically, yesterday, a lot of kids were turned away because the queues were so long, so they were left gutted. I know Forest did take extra action, so I contacted them about the ticket prices and the signing session, and they've issued quite a long statement on it, basically holding their hands up, which I think is quite commendable. But I'll read it out in full. Just bear with me one sec.
Activism journalism from Matt Davies, the voice of the consumer.
Exactly. Right, this is a statement issued by Forest on the signing session. At Nottingham Forest, we want to build a deeper connection between our players and our supporters. Many of us remember firsthand how wonderful it felt to meet our heroes at similar events in the club's past. We were overwhelmed by the number of supporters who came down to the signing session yesterday, and we weren't adequately resourced to cope effectively with huge demand. As soon as it was apparent that a large number of supporters risked missing out after lengthy waiting times, Our players agreed to stay on for an extra 90 minutes in order to try and satisfy as many fans as possible. Today, we've deployed a greater number of stewards, taken steps to ensure the queue moves more quickly through the store, and improve the communication to those supporters who plan to join the queue, some of whom arrived at the City Ground before dawn today. Wow. We're sorry to any supporter who missed out yesterday. As part of our ongoing plans to improve the fan experience in Nottingham Forest, we will modify and make improvements for future signing sessions, which we will hope will become a regular occurrence in the future. So there you go. I know, Emily, your mate Emma went down to meet Felipe and took her son as well. I mean, she got there in the end. I mean, obviously, it went a bit wrong yesterday, but I do commend Forest for putting on an event like this, because I know my kids would love to meet their heroes, and quite a few of us would do as adults as well.
I've got quite a few points on this. First of all, Emma went yesterday and today with her daughter and son yesterday, and Ted again today. And I am convinced the only reason she took her kids is so she had an excuse to go and meet Felipe. She said the queues were really long and it was very boring waiting, but actually it was really worth it in the end because the kids absolutely loved it. The other thing I wanted to mention was, you might not remember this, but back in the 90s, Forest did this. And I was one of those kids queuing up to meet the likes of Jason Lee and Steve Stone and Ian Wone. And I've got pictures somewhere of me with them. And I remember it just being the best thing ever to meet the Forest players. And I was just gutted yesterday and today that A, I was working, so I couldn't go. And B, I don't have a kid young enough to take. And can you imagine like fully grown me going, Felipe, can I have a photo? So, but no, I think it's a great idea. And, you know, why do a lot of young kids follow Forest? Because they love the footballers and they're icons, aren't they? They're role models. And when you get to meet them and you get an autograph and you get a picture with them and you get a hello or a high five, it means the absolute world. And it's disappointing in a way that people had to queue, but doesn't it show just how many kids and maybe mums and dads wanted to go as well? And good on them for coming back to you, being honest and trying to get it sorted today. I just wish I could have gone.
Yes, absolutely. Your kids haven't been indoctrinated yet, have they, Mark? They might even gone to support
No,
others.
my son's an Arsenal fan. I don't think there's much I can do about that, really, because I took him to the Arsenal City game last year. We went to the Emirates, and the facilities there. I'm like, and he said to me, is it like this at Forest? I'm like, no, you can get a bouncy pie, but no. All I had to do was give Felipe his own session round the corner, and the queues would have been halved. Why didn't they just do that? I don't understand.
I suppose, Temps, just lastly on it, obviously, all your T20 games, you have the signing sessions at the end, and my kids went to one after 100 and they loved it. So, fair play to Forest, I guess, and more stuff like this can only be good, and if they can iron out the creases, I guess. Anything you want to add on it?
It's hard at that level. You try to do the right thing, don't you? So Forest have put on these two events completely free of charge. Players have given up their time, probably expecting to be there an hour, and have ended up there for 2.5. So how can you fault the goodwill of everyone there, from the department that's organised it to the professional players themselves who've given up their time. If it's the Emma I'm thinking of, she works on reception at David Lloyd, so she sees Felipe 3 times a week anyway. She's just being a bit greedy there. But yeah, my signing day was I think it was about 2003, 2004. And I remember queuing up to get a birthday card signed for my friend. Marlon was in one corner of the car park. It might have been Prutz, Gareth Williams, that kind of crowd, and waited hours and hours and hours and didn't get anywhere in the end. Yeah, bless me. But I was entertained because they had a football freestyler called Mr. Wu. Do you remember him? And he was in the main stand car park, just flicking balls up on his shoulders. So yeah, I was mildly entertained, even if I did have to forge Marlon Hayward's signature on my friend's birthday card. But yeah, credit to Forest. They should do more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
it's a bit easier for us. You know, we've got 10,000 people at a game at Trent Bridge, and we're able to let them all on the pitch, and the players stay there for an hour, and it's all good. But the reality of Premier League football is you couldn't do that. You couldn't let those people on a Premier League playing service. You couldn't steward it. You couldn't control the masses in quite the same way. So yeah, my circumstances for operating that kind of thing are a bit more idyllic, but the demand is far higher for access to Premier League footballers. It's a rare thing. I don't think too many clubs have done something like this. So credit to Forest for the idea, for the apology, qualification, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, you've got to admire the intent.
I think that covers all the ground we wanted to before any other business. So as ever, if you have enjoyed this and haven't already, do hit like and subscribe. Give us a good review on iTunes. Any positive support is very much appreciated. Right. Emily, any other business before we go?
No, not at all. You've just got me thinking about all the old Forest players. I'm now thinking about Lars Bohinen and when I met him.
Oh, what a player.
Yeah, this is a story for another day, but I even learnt Norwegian so that I could speak to him in Norwegian. So, yeah.
Do you remember any of it?
Jeg snakker ikke norsk. Kan du skrive ned ditt her? Something like that. I think that means I don't speak.
Pretty good.
Will you marry me, Lars?
Yeah.
Something like that. Something along those lines. Yeah.
Very impressive. Assuming you didn't just make that up, because none of us are going to be able to call you out on it. But very impressive.
No, not at all. I was a 16-year-old obsessive with Lars Bohinen, so I learnt Norwegian for him.
Have you always been obsessed with a Forest player, Em?
Yeah, there's always one on the cards.
Talk me through the history from Bohinen to Felipe.
Now I can start from day one. Lee Chapman, Teddy Sheringham,
Gary Birtles,
Gemmo, Lars Bohinen.
Don't tell Gemmo that; he'll dine out on that.
And then, I can't remember the rest, but that'll do you, won't it? That's like my history. Yeah.
Well, I didn't expect to hear any Norwegian on stage show, certainly.
Sorry.
Temps, anything from you before we go?
No, can't top that. Can't top asking a Norwegian player to marry me in his native tongue. I think that's outstanding. And Emily deserves a statue for that.
Floor's yours, Mark. Anything before we go?
No, I'm just going to go back and watch Lars Bohinen's goal at Spurs. Do you remember that one, the little dink? Oh, beautiful. And there was one at Sheffield Wednesday as well, wasn't there? I was like, he was an incredible player. Absolutely loved him.
Yeah. And the original Haaland as well.
Sorry? Alfie Haaland, of course.
The original.
Yeah. No, I just want to check the data at the end of the game against West Ham and not see James Ward-Prowse with double figures for crosses. Then we might win the game. That's all I want.
I think we will.
Yeah.
Only one for me. Happy birthday, Greg Mitchell. Haven't heard from him today. Yeah. I know. I hope he's all right. I assume he is.
How old's Greg claiming to be?
I think he's still under 40. So I don't
39. 39. I don't mind
asking him. His age. He's probably got to show his age, right? He's probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday to Greg.
I'm 40 on Tuesday. What have you got me?
Oh, Tim.
Well, I didn't know. Now I know. Now I feel duty bound that we have to get you something. Now you said that, and like thousands and thousands of people are going to hear it.
I'm going to get you a signed Lars Bohinen photo. How about that?
And 3 points. There we go.
3 points.
There you go. We're going to get you 3 points. Yeah. Right. We shall leave it there. Thanks to everyone who's joined us. Back tomorrow with a mini podcast with Nat Johnson from Forest Women. And then post-match on Saturday after the West Ham game, around 30 minutes or an hour after the final whistle. So do join us for that. And then we'll be back on Monday, of course, after that. Emily, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mark, thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt.
Temps, thank you.
Back to the Pringles, mate.
You've not finished them yet.
5 left.
Oh, I just finished them ages ago. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a good day, and we shall see you soon.